Hello, it's Sherry Clergis live from Vancouver with At 45, the magazine for women and life changes. Today, I'm so excited to have an established painter with us, and it's just an amazing opportunity to find out about painting and her style of painting, and actually what brought her to paint. My mother was a painter and an artist, and I always find it fascinating because I'm not a painter or an artist at all. So welcome Iris Mes-Low from Vancouver, and she is selling her art through Rome Gallery. It's an online gallery, romegallery.com, and Van Dop Gallery in New Westminster. So, welcome, Iris. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, tell me, what style of painter are you, and what does that kind of painting entail?
Well, I started this style of painting based on my experiences in British Columbia, the landscape around us, and also influenced by a lot of local painters. When I started to delve into their work, I noticed that there was that it clicked with me as well. And so I started to formulate my own style around, Emily Carr, Lauren Harris, who painted in British Columbia as well, and also contemporary painters like Ross Penhall and Dana Irving, for instance. So that's how I got to this current style. And it seems to resonate with people. So it's a very idealistic look at the landscape. It's a very I have 6 children, and I think I went through all the stages of video gaming with them as they grew up. And I swear that a lot of my shapes and sensitivities have also been influenced by video game backgrounds, because when I had the Eastside Culture Crawl last year, or the year before actually, people asked me, do you do video backgrounds? So it's definitely an expression of the time we live in, I think. I think we all right now are craving to go back to a simpler life, less crowded life. We're looking for peace, meditation, these things. And I think that that's kind of where my work ended up. I think any artist is a communicator of their time, definitely.
Absolutely. What a beautiful way of putting it. So how long have you been painting?
I wanted to be a painter since I was a child. My father was a painter. We lived in Ontario for a short period of time, and he painted there as well as he worked at Queen's University. And so I saw him do it every day, and I was always hanging out in his studio. And when I was 9 years old, I applied to TV Magazine. They used to have this Draw Bambi ad, where you could draw Bambi and then you could become a student of this, I guess, correspondence art school, the same one that Charles Schultz went to. But I didn't know that they would come to my door. So they came to my door and they asked for me, and my father said, but she's a child. So after that, he decided to start to help me with drawings, and he got me copying other artists. Like, he started me off with Chinese drawings and Japanese drawings and arts, and I just learned so much from him. And then later in my 20s, we had moved back to Holland by that time because I'm originally from the Netherlands. I met an artist in the town that we lived at the time, and I started working with him, doing things like priming his canvases and setting things up, and sometimes I would teach. And in return for that, I got lessons, and I helped him with murals and things like that. So I learned a lot from him too. He's also a great influence on the techniques that I use in my work. So I had a hiatus when I had 6 children, but you can't do it all, no matter what people say.
So true.
Yeah, so I did continue painting and drawing, and I did occasionally sell things, but it wasn't my primary focus. And art is a very self-centered sort of profession. You really have to be completely immersed in it in order for you to really get anywhere, I think. And it's a solitary thing. So it doesn't really go together with being a mom, where you're just like crowd pleaser in our case anyway. So when my oldest son, I think he was 15, he went out the door one day. No, not my oldest son, my second oldest son, Simon. He went out the door one day and he said, "Have a good day, Mom, whatever it is you do all day." And then I thought to myself, "Oh God, what do I do all day? It's terrible. I have no real focus for my own life. Now that they're older, I need to re-look at this, reimagine my life, And that's when I decided to go back to really be very focused on arts. I set up a studio in my house. I bought secondhand paint, all these things that you do to start out. And I think that was 2006 or 2002 or something like that. I don't know, a while ago. And then slowly you start to get up and running again. And it's taken me a while.
Oh, so many women can identify with, you're sharing that, one day, your kids are older and you think, oh gosh, like, who am I? What do I want to do? And what do I like to do?
It's like your identity was just leached from you for a long, long time. And, menopause happens and everything is just thrown up in the air and you have to sort of sort through who you are again. And that's definitely what I did at the time.
Well, absolutely. It's true. I mean, I even have my own story. My daughter asked me one day, what's your favorite color, Mom? And it was like just shocking that I realized I didn't even know anymore.
I had that same experience. I totally identify with that too. You don't know who you are anymore. And you aren't that same person you were in your 20s either. You can't say, oh, I'll just be that person. I'll just have my hair the same way. I'll dress the same way. I mean, nobody wants that.
Oh, isn't that true?
Yeah. You've got to really figure it out again. Your body has changed. Your outlook on life has changed. So you really have to start over. I find that you start from scratch again.
I think that's very true. Yeah, mm-hmm. I would agree with that. So now that I've heard that you did some training with a Dutch master, I do sort of see the connection in your paintings.
There's a European bent to my work for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what kind of things inspire you to paint? Like, do you paint things that you see or things that you feel?
I like to explain it as that I work from memory. I seem to remember things really well. Well, I don't know about really well, but I seem to remember things sufficiently to be able to express it. And I remember the color of a sky or a certain scene or something that really gets me. And then I try to recreate it, and then I'll tweak it and I'll play with the colors. And so I use different references if I have photo references. So I'll come together with that, but it's mostly just memory and just I want to create a feeling in the painting where you're looking at it and you're standing there by yourself in the landscape and you're just taking that in, that stillness. And that's kind of what you can find in BC, what I couldn't find in the Netherlands anymore. It's a very crowded country. And here you can go out and you can be by yourself in the landscape. And I think I wanted to recreate that.
Oh, that explains again your art so well, because definitely there is that feeling of, just gazing at something and you actually are in its presence. So amazing, though, that you do a lot of it from memory.
Yeah, well, it's very stylistically not real. So it's almost like I draw a little bit from the childlike mind, a little bit of the fantasy growing up with books more than with people, which was more my thing anyway. It still is more my thing. So my imagination is very much mostly what drives my work.
And how do you approach a painting then? Like, Is there a particular way that you paint or start to create?
I will have an idea, or I will see something that sparks an idea, and then I'll write it down. I'll sketch it out. Sometimes I'll make notes. It will sit in the back of my mind and sort of macerate. And then I will, have a canvas prepared. I do a lot of coats of primer so that I have a really smooth surface on the canvas. I don't like painting on wood, just canvas for some reason. And then I put a layer of reddish, pinkish, brownish as a background, as a primer layer. And then I just draw, and it can change throughout a little bit, but I focus on how the light falls. And I focus on, well, the rainbow. I mean, my name means rainbow. Maybe that's something there, I don't know. But I like to see that spectrum falling on the landscape because I think it's also a bit of an allegory for society, being so colorful and so multifaceted and multicultural. I think when you embrace all the colors, you also embrace all people, all everything, all genders and expressions of self. And that's also, I think, what I like to evoke, because I have felt and I have seen people that have been discriminated against, and that I think that it should be a more inclusive society. And I think when you express the spectrum in your work, I think that's something of this time too that people are very occupied with, with inclusion and multiculturalism. I think that's something that's very important to do and to be. And I think, I don't know, Canada, we're very fortunate that compared to other countries, even I like especially Holland, where there's still a lot of stuff. We're very open-minded in many ways. I mean, there's always going to be people that need to be tweaked, and there's always going to be people that still are doing it. But so that's an important part of my work too.
Yeah. Again, it just it's like your paintings are layers, and as you speak, I can sort of be drawn into the other layers of it.
Yeah, and they are painted in thin layers of oil paint, so the layers shimmer through. That's something I learned in Holland from that artist that I worked with. He worked with the theory of Goethe's colors, of light, refraction, so that the paint, through the layers of paint, you create new colors. You put a red over or yellow, and you get an orange, and so that's kind of how that translucency sort of works. So
amazing. There's so much theory behind it. When you look at a painting, you're just seeing the beauty of it, but it's amazing to know how much theory and practice is behind it.
Yeah, I definitely have honed it down to, I do things in a certain way, and I assess my painting because it has to meet, for me, certain standards. And I really try to produce a painting that is of high quality. So that's definitely my my thing.
No, I see that you were able to get some space that's just for you in your studio there. I love the painting behind you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's based on Bella Coola. We went up there last year, and it's an incredibly beautiful place. Bella Coola is almost very mysterious, and the light is just fascinating. And I'm looking forward to exploring more of British Columbia that way.
Well, and now is a perfect time with COVID, and that a lot of people are staying in the province and trying to explore. But you're sharing the beautiful British Columbia to, many people.
Thanks. Yeah, try.
An ambassador of BC. So is there a key piece of wisdom that you'd like to share with women who are contemplating, a new stage in their life?
We're contemplating a new stage in your life. I think you really need to take the time to look inward, question everything you've learned so far, and decide if you still think that way. Like, opinions are very fluid, and they can change. And I think sometimes you need to, times for women have changed a great deal since I was young. When I was in my 20s, myself and a lot of friends, they thought that marrying the right man was still the be-all, end-all goal, right? Someone with a career, someone with money. Friends would ask me, how do we do that? You know, and it really isn't where we are anymore today. Our identity is no longer dependent on our partner. We don't need to have a traditional relationship. We don't need to find that identity within our family or our spouse or partner. So we really need to be able to stand alone, I think. Not alone as in lonely, but be able to be an independent thinker and an independent person. And I think too often our views are colored by things that aren't real, that are erroneous, you know?
Oh, now that speaks to me. And another thing too, that's sort of, I mean, we've made huge strides as women in our time, right? But the other thing is even about aging, you know, the women that we seen in our younger years and how they aged and what they did is so different from the opportunities that we have now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Where you know 60 or 70 is the new 50 kind of thing, because
yeah,
we have the life expectancy, it's much more longer than they were expecting. So we hit, you know, our 50s and we still can, you know, we have 30 years left of living.
yeah,
But
it's true. I mean, there still is quite a bit of ageism. I mean, as a woman who paints, you're still considered someone who does it as a hobby, who suddenly thought that they would start a career. You know, that's not necessarily a fair assessment, you know, like it's just a bit derogatory. But I remember people when I was young who were older, they would have the polyester dresses, the curlered hair that would stay in for 2 weeks. You know, they would have the permanent hair, and they would dye it no matter what. It's very nice now that you can have gray hair and you can still have it long, because you don't have to have the perm in your hair, which is kind of was the standard when you were 60, that you went to short permed hair, you know.
yeah.
And so now you can be whatever. There's no rules about, oh, you can't wear that. You know, you can pretty much express yourself how you will and how you wish, and it's much more young people like it when you do it, and older people may look at you funny, but you know, you can't worry about that anymore. After you're 50, you start to become a little bit more whatever, you know. It's like it doesn't seem to bother you as much as when you were young. Peer pressure doesn't matter as much.
No, and what I find is we as women are actually stepping in up
Mhm.
and owning that ability not to care and to say, you know, this is my time.
Yeah,
I don't need to do it the way, you know, you think it should be done anymore. So it
that's right.
is, it's very freeing.
It is.
Um, so with, is there a key piece of learning that you've had in your life that resonates with you even in your later years?
In my later years,
Now that's ageism. I'm
you're
sorry
still ahead
about
of me.
that. But what I meant
Yeah,
was, you know,
I,
different than your 20s. You're approaching a key piece of learning differently now with the wisdom that you have.
yeah. I think I when I was younger, I really relied on books to tell me things, and now I sort of trust myself more in that respect. I trust my own instincts, even with regards to painting. I don't want to be led by other people's trends. I want to do what I think works, and people seem to recognize that, and it seems to work better than when I was trying to paint what I thought people wanted to see. And I think that's the same with life right now too, that You want to do what you think you should be doing, not what other people tell you should be doing, or what you think, what you perceive. But key piece of learning has still been, in terms of my career, just a solid knowledge of what you work with, your materials, your paints, your solvents, your mediums, trying to do things as ecologically responsible. Like oil paint is much better in terms of off-gassing and things like that than acrylics are. And working with natural materials, not with, things that will make your dog go blind or whatever, so that's been very good. I'm kind of not remembering what else I can say about that.
Well, that's an amazing answer, because again, I didn't even realize that in painting, there was that off-gassing issue, or that there was a sustainability factor.
And now some acrylic paints do not off-gas. You have to really do your research. Like there's a local producer of acrylic paint, Chroma, on Granville Island. There's no off-gassing from that. But other synthetic acrylic paints, which are derived from oil, what do you call it? It's an oil, what do you call it? I'm sorry, my language is going now. It's a product, a byproduct from oil refineries. Let's put it that way. That's used to make acrylic paint, and it's not really that great for the environment. But oil paint is very natural. It's used with oils. I use walnut oil, so it doesn't have any, synthetic, turpentine or any of those mineral spirits. I don't use any of that stuff. So
that's amazing. Walnut oil.
Yeah, and I do thin washes in walnut oil, so it's very, I don't really use a lot of paint on my paintings either. I do 3 layers, and I do 3, and I try to use real pigments, not synthetically derived pigments, as much as possible. I mean, I started out in my 20s grinding paint into oil from natural pigments like lapis lazuli, and from there's beetles that make red paint. There's indigo plants that make blue paint, and I used to grind them down. I really learned it, from very basic stuff. You can even use lavender oil. It smells very strong, and it's quite expensive, but lavender oil is also a very good medium for oil paint.
Oh, isn't that something? Wow.
Yeah, because I still have the tins with the natural pigments that I have from Holland still, where these are all found in the ground, like the greens, the blues. This is indigo from a plant in India. Those are all really good, natural, and they're not toxic either. I don't use cadmium is very toxic, but I don't use that particular yellow. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, blue jeans used to be made that way, made with human urine and indigo plants. That's how they used to make indigo, right? That's very interesting. And through art history, every time they discovered a new color, you can see it was started to be added to artwork. I mean, Johannes Vermeer, for instance, he bankrupted himself because he was buying lapis lazuli, because he used a lot of that blue in his work. But it was very expensive and almost an illegal thing that he would smuggle out of, I think Afghanistan is where it came from.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I didn't know at the time until I started doing that there was such a range of it. Yeah.
And do you have a favorite book that you've read that's totally changed your life, or the way you thought about life?
Well, when I was young, I was bullied when I was in elementary school, and I read the books by C.S. Lewis, The Chronicles of Narnia, and I swear that saved me, because I could disappear into this imaginary world and be quite happy in that inside my head living, which is not always a good thing to live in your head. But for me, it was a great escape. And I think that books like Tolkien's Lord of the Rings I read, and there's many other books like that. I think that as an adult, that really helped me with that imaginary worlds that I put onto canvas now.
Absolutely. I can see, your paintings, the Chronicles of Narnia would suit it perfectly.
looking for that lamppost in the snow, but I don't put a lamppost in the snow, but still that idea of peering into this world,
Yes.
walking through the wardrobe. Yeah, that's kind of very much an influence.
Yeah. Well, Iris, thank you so much for sharing today. It's been fascinating.
Thank you. It's been nice talking to you, getting to know you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
People can view your art on your website.
Mhm.
It's Iris, mes-low.com.
Yeah, and on Instagram, irismeslow.art.
.art, okay. And we will also put that up in the magazine for people to be able to refer to it. So thank you again for sharing with us today.
That was fun. Thank you.